Bigfoot, Dogman, Jersey Devil, and others. Are they real? Figments of our imagination? Or the most cleverly disregarded reality of all time? Come into the cabin. Let's sit down and find out together. Hey, welcome back to the cabin. I'm Robbie.
And I'm Johnny.
Hey, Johnny.
No.
Are you an imposter?
I don't know how well I'd be at impersonating Johnny.
I don't think anybody can impersonate Johnny.
No.
Johnny is one of a kind. Now, Johnny is having some livestock issues, so he's not going to be able to be with us tonight. So Taylor has graciously accepted an invitation to jump in, and so we can have a show tonight. So thank you, Taylor.
You're welcome.
So, since you've graciously accepted to jump in with us tonight, Taylor, I thought we would do something that's a little bit more in your ballpark.
Yes, graciously accepted and wasn't all guilt tripped into it by my father.
Well, you know, sometimes you got to do things you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Nah. Anyway, so not that you didn't want to do it, this is just not your thing, but you do step in from time to time, and I thank you for that. But Johnny and I had a show a couple months ago where we talked about the top 5 Bigfoot or cryptid movies, which really we just did Bigfoot.
I remember that. I remember doing the thumbnail for that.
Yeah,
that was more than a couple months ago.
Well, yeah, okay, it was a while ago.
It was last year at least.
Yeah, it was. But anyways, instead of doing, because, you know, Bigfoot and cryptids are all over movies, we know that. But really, things like this, especially Bigfoot, are more of a cultural icon. I mean, people still want to make fun of you for believing in this stuff and things like that, but, you know, everybody knows who Bigfoot is, regardless of whether they believe in it or not. Everybody's seen the Messing with Sasquatch for Jack Link's feature.
Oh, yeah.
You know, everybody's seen these commercials. Look at all the vampire movies. Look at all the werewolf movies. Look at all the Bigfoot movies that there are out there. Whether you want to deny that existence or not, the fact is they're still part of it. It's a pop and cultural icon.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about how these cryptids have kind of invaded things other than just movies, like commercials, video games, social media, things like that, which, you know, that's a little bit more up your alley.
Yep.
Is stuff like that. So let's talk about the effects and some of the other things that they're involved in. So we were talking a little bit before we started recording about the video games that they're involved in, and yeah, you brought up a couple of specific games that vampires are involved in. So why don't you talk a little bit about that? You said one of them was your favorite.
No, it's not my favorite game. So Resident Evil 8 Village. It's the first Resident Evil game I got into, as in I watched Markiplier play it. And there's this very tall vampire lady named Lady Dimitrescu. And she's she's very popular in media.
Well, and let's see, that shows right there, just using that example of Resident Evil, that shows how long that game has been around using stuff like that, because I remember back in I want to say it was 95 or 96 when the very first Resident Evil came out, and it was about zombies, which, you know, a zombie's not a cryptid, but it's still in that.
It's in the anomaly category.
Yeah, it's in that category, in that genre, if you want to put it that way. So, I mean, I can remember playing that very first Resident Evil game.
Yeah.
Way back then, and you know, that you can't say that that's not embedded in the culture when you have things like that that's been around that long.
Yeah.
That's close to 30 years ago.
One of the most popular board games I know of is called Werewolf, and you play as a werewolf, and you have to try and disguise yourself. I'm sure everybody's heard of Werewolf. It's an imposter-style board game. It's
I've even
very
heard that.
popular.
And that's saying something if I've heard about a board game like that. But that's the whole point of this, is how ingrained in our society these things are. Whether people want to make fun of you for believing in them or what, everybody knows what these things are. Everybody knows what the Loch Ness Monster is. Everybody knows what Bigfoot is.
Yeah.
So,
in a way, the media has kind of desensitized everybody to cryptid culture in a way that where when we first started doing this and we told people about it, we thought we'd be met with people being like, oh, that's weird, or oh, sure, good for you. But everybody's just kind of been nonchalant about it. Like, they're like, oh, that's cool. Because I believe media's desensitized them to thinking this is outlandish or crazy, and really knowing that some people believe in this, truly.
yeah. And we kind of talked about that on DAX Machina the other night. We were talking about whether the idea of whether sightings were on the rise or, what the case may be. And Ryan brought up the point, our buddy Ryan Paul Tremblay, who's one of our new co-hosts, he said he felt like the exact point that you just made. He felt like the media has desensitized it, and plus there's more shows like ours and like DAX Machina where people feel like they have a place to go. And I'm on the fence. I feel like that's part of it. I also feel like, when we had the Black Plague in the 21st century and we were out of the woods for so long, things start moving back in. You don't have people like Teddy Roosevelt, Daniel Boone, Davy Crockett, those hardcore frontiersmen that had, the fortitude to go in and push not just cryptids, but, the other big predators and things like that, to push them back. You don't have that nowadays. So, but I think you're very correct that media has played a big part in that because it's so sensationalized and so out there. I mean, you can't get on Tubi and type in Bigfoot without seeing
hundreds of
results for movies.
And even more so with werewolves.
Right, and vampires. I mean,
yeah.
There's, vampires have probably been around the longest as far as movies go and books. I mean, because you go back to Nosferatu and Bram Stoker's Dracula. Those are some of I think Nosferatu came out in 53 or 30, maybe it was in the 30s. Whenever it was the first movie, it was without sound and without color. It was a silent movie. And then Dracula came out after that. Back at 1922 is when Nosferatu came out. So as early as 1922, people were, but back then, people didn't think you were as crazy for believing in stuff like that as they do. And there again, that was a cycle type thing too. People didn't, frontier times and on up into that time, people didn't call you crazy for believing in that.
No.
Then you get the revolutionary period of people are smarter than they think they are.
Yeah.
Everybody's crazy for believing in this stuff. Now it's kind of starting to come back full circle where there's not as many people who call you crazy anymore.
Well, that's because we have so many ways to prove if things are not real. Yet there's nothing to come about that says definitively that cryptids are not real. So with having more resources and still having no answers, it's kind of harder to rationalize or to completely eliminate something from your mind.
Yeah. Well, and it's like the show we did a couple shows ago about AI, and how hard that makes getting a picture to be approved for a video to be approved because of the technology. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. Technology is a good thing to help us, but it's also a bad thing because people are able to put stuff out there that's, a lot of times it's hard if you don't have the equipment to do it, it's hard for a normal person that just sees a picture to look at it with just their eyes and say, yeah, that's fake, or no, it's not fake. I mean, obviously AI being kind of in its infancy, there are ways to look at it and tell if it's cheaper done, but if it's
well, AI's been around for a lot longer than people realize, but AI being more accessible and getting back to our topic, more put on mainstream media more.
Yeah, and I'll agree with that.
Yeah, it's become more popular and where people consider it first. Because people used to think AI was just like, oh, a talking robot that has sentient thoughts and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, usually when you throw the term AI out there, people automatically, especially people around my age, first thing they think of is, Terminator.
Yes.
Because that's Skynet, becoming aware and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And, 'cause that's what we were, that's what we were brought up on, thinking what AI is.
Yeah.
Well, back to the video games, you brought up Resident Evil. They're one of the better games that is out there, and DA and Noah and I played it on DAX Machina when we streamed it on Noah's Twitch stream. Is Bigfoot, and I mean it's a really, really good game.
It's a very popular game. I mentioned Markiplier played Resident Evil, and that's how I saw it. He's one of the biggest names in video games on YouTube, and he's also played a lot of Bigfoot. He's done like 20-ish videos on Bigfoot.
Well, I watch Fooster, who's another big YouTube gamer. Him and his friends played that game a lot. Riot and Froggy Man, who are really popular YouTube gamers, they've played it before. It's one of those genres that there's a lot you can do with it.
Yeah.
And not for nothing, got to mention books. If we're going to talk about all this stuff, I mean, DA's got 30 books in print.
That's how you got into all this, is DA's books.
Right. Well, it's not. I mean, that's what brought me mainstream.
Well, that's what brought you to the
part.
podcast.
Yeah.
You've always believed, though.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, that reading DA's book got me in touch with him, and one thing led to another, and being a co-host on his show and having this show, and so it shows the popularity of it. I mean, Dark Frontiers, the first one, hit bestseller in Western horror and was number 13 overall in actual horror, just horror in general.
Yeah.
That's saying something about the popularity of this field.
Yeah. Every video game, most video games have like some small mention of cryptids, whether you realize it or not. I mean, even GTA. There's a werewolf feature in GTA. It's more like American Teen Werewolf, where he's in his basketball shorts and sweatbands and he's all hairy.
Look at you bringing up Rockstar Games with GTA. Look at Red Dead Revolver, Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah.
There's a Bigfoot patch. Is it a patch, Tyler, or is it just in the game? Just in the game. Yeah, I never could find out. You knew I played that game. I had it on my Xbox 360, and supposedly you were just supposed to be able to go up in the woods and find. I was never able to find it, but but there's, and you probably don't remember this because it was a really early computer game. You were probably too little. I'm sure your brother probably remembers this, but I had a game, and I can't remember what the name of it was, but it was an old computer game, and you went around and hunted. Like this corporation had made this portal, and it would send you to this island back in time, and you would go hunt dinosaurs for trophies.
Yeah.
But one of the things, and it was like a boss was a Yeti.
Okay.
And that was back in the 90s.
Yeah.
So this stuff has been kind of seeping into mainstream media and culture for a long time.
Oh yeah, and going back to YouTubers, a lot of YouTubers talk about it. Tyler's going to be real happy about this, but a very big YouTuber who he loves, who's strictly cryptid and conspiracy theories, is Wendigoon.
Yep.
And he's very, very popular, and Tyler could probably tell you more about him if he would talk. But but he's a very, very widely popular YouTuber, and he even does a podcast with a very, very popular YouTuber named Critical Moist, or Charlie, who has millions of subscribers, and he does strictly conspiracy theory cryptid content. I mean, his name is Wendigoon, for crying out loud.
Yeah. And talking about podcasting. I mean, look at Dark Waters. Dark Waters has got hundreds of thousands of subscribers. What Lurks Beneath, Josh Finocchio, he's got hundreds of thousands of subscribers. You know, on DAX Machina, we've got 8,000, that's a small number compared to some of the numbers we talked about.
It's still 8,000 people.
That's 8,000 people that subscribe and watch. Even our little small channel here, we're over 500 now.
Yeah,
right? We're
which if you think about it in the sense of subscribers, it doesn't seem like a lot. But you put that many people in a room, you're going to see how many people that actually is.
So there is definitely a niche for this.
It's very widely accepted nowadays, I feel like.
Yeah. And
whether you believe it or not, it's just a part of life that everybody accepts.
And too, there's different camps inside the cryptid world. You know, you got the woo camp, and then you got the flesh and blood camp, and then you got some of the ones that kind of like, well, you know, could be either one. And I think we firmly sit in the flesh and blood camp, but I know there's things out there that we can't explain. But that's just a testament to how much, because it's not just cryptids. It's cryptids, but then you can break us down inside that into smaller groups. And if you got enough people to do that, that says there's a lot of people out there that, I mean, if you just search cryptid podcasts on YouTube, you're gonna get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of channels out there.
Yeah.
Of people who just want to sit and talk about this.
Oh yeah.
You know, like I said, with movies, you can't put any of those search titles in Tubi or what's the Prime, Amazon Prime, any of those big major streaming services without getting hundreds and hundreds of results.
Oh yeah,
And
it's a big part of today's culture, whether people accept it or not.
And there's even smaller video games. There's one, it's an acronym that I saw. It's called SPAT, S-P-A-T, Special Paranormal Assault Team. And you're part of this team, and you go into these towns that have been overrun by zombies and werewolves and vampires and things like that, and you have to go in and take them out. It's kind of almost, in a way, it's almost like playing as a wild hunt. I mean,
there are so many ghost hunting games, Phasmophobia, Midnight Ghost Hunt, all these different games that are so popular. Phasmophobia being one that is one of the most popular paranormal games, if not the. It took off, and like during the pandemic, I want to say, is when it really became popular, but probably before that. And it's all ghost hunting and stuff.
Well, think about that. Think about all the, a few years ago when those shows started coming out. Think about how they popularized, ghost hunting and things like that. Now there's hundreds of shows about that one. What was it? Ghost Hunters was the first one, I think. With what was the name of that team? Anyway, I used to watch it all the time.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. The ones that would shake the camera and scream.
But anyway, they kind of popularized that. And you had the Finding Bigfoot was kind of the first one of those shows. Then you had
the wild. What were those? The ones that would get caught in their own traps.
No, that was Mountain Monsters.
Yes, Mountain Monsters. We loved watching that together when I was younger.
Yeah, then you had spinoffs from that. That Alaskan Monsters, which is pretty much the same thing, just in Alaska. So I mean, and not for nothing, those shows were just strictly for entertainment.
Yeah, no, most TV, pretty much all TV shows that you're going to see about cryptids and paranormal life is all going to be strictly for entertainment, and most everything's going to be faked because you are seeing it on TV. It is publicized by somebody bigger than the people that started it, who, whether they had good intentions or not, they wanted money.
Yeah, they're looking for ratings.
They wanted money, they wanted ratings, they wanted something that people could laugh at, because nobody's going to believe something on a TV show like that because they know it's fake.
Yeah. And then, of course, you had Discovery and they started it during Shark Week when they would start throwing those shows out there about the megalodon, and they were passing them off as real.
I'm not going to say the megalodon's not
no,
there.
That's not what I'm saying. But they had those they were supposed to be documentaries about. There's one about the boat that got attacked, and is kind of a found footage documentary type thing. But then that kind of kind of branched off into them going and doing the same thing with Bigfoot. There was one where they supposedly captured Bigfoot and they had a CGI Bigfoot in a cage, and that's all about, like you said, that's all about
CGI
money.
Bigfoots were always the funniest parts of those shows. Like, very clearly, very, very fake. Looks like it's plucked out of a video game and plopped onto your screen.
But that goes back to what we said about, the AI and all that stuff. It's back then it was really easy to tell. It's getting harder and harder to tell now.
Oh yeah.
What's real and what's not real.
If you look at superhero movies and then you look at like the bloopers or whatever, some of the stuff that you thought is real is not real.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you had told me that they built a bodysuit and painted Thanos' actor and just threw him out there like that, I would have believed you.
Yeah. Well, and I think that motion capture has come so far now with mocap and the CGI and the AI engines that they use.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Avatar was a turning point of like what we realized we could do with motion capture and with CGI, and from there it just went up. And then again, Avatar takes it with Avatar Way of the Water. When they came back, they took it up to the next level even still.
Yeah. And well, just look at video games now. I mean, look at Call of Duty, for example. Kevin McKidd, who plays one of the guys in that, you cannot look at that character on that video game because obviously he's voicing it, but it looks just like him, and you can't look at that. At some points in the game, it looks like he's actually standing there.
Yeah.
It's unreal, the technology, what they can do with this kind of stuff. And there again, that same thing with Bigfoot. I mean, that game, it's really realistic in a lot of spots. The first time DA and I played it, I mean, there were some jumpy parts. You walk around in the woods and you see his red eyes coming at you, and all of a sudden it jumps out behind a tree. I mean, I ain't gonna say that I screamed like a little girl, but DA did. No, we both did. It scared the crap out of both of us.
One of the most popular games to come out of the pandemic was Amnesia Rebirth. That is a cryptid video game.
So tell me about that. I don't know about that one.
So I've got something pulled up because I was looking at what cryptid video games there are, since video games is more of what I'm attuned to in media. I was like the rest of the world with Amnesia. I watched PewDiePie play it, and so I don't know much about Rebirth. I never watched anybody play that, but basically I've got something pulled up. It says, the plot of Rebirth follows the amnesiac protagonist as she explores the Algerian desert and other locations while in previous games, solving various puzzles, maintaining her sanity, and avoiding monsters, all the while slowly piercing together the horrifying events she has forgotten. So you have amnesia, and you have to survive a bunch of monsters attacking you, and they are horrifying.
And that kind of sounds sort of like, and I can't remember the name of it. I want to say it was called Legendary. It was an Xbox game that I had.
Mm-hmm.
But basically somebody had opened Pandora's box, and all these things like werewolves and vampires and griffins and centaurs and all this stuff, it released them back on the earth, and you had to go around with this team and try to save the world from all these mythical creatures. And that was probably back in early 2000s when that game came out.
Oh yeah. There's Mothman is in Fallout 76. And Fallout's one of the most popular video game franchises. It
Yeah.
just got its own TV show,
Yep.
and Mothman is in it. So a lot of and Slenderman is a cryptid.
It's a creepypasta cryptid, but yeah.
Yeah,
it's still,
he's a creepypasta cryptid, and he's also one of the most popular video games ever.
That's true.
There are so many games or anything in media that we've loved that we just completely gloss over, even like the smallest thing.
Well, Alan
The
Wake.
Yetis in Uncharted 2.
Yeah, and Alan Wake, that video, I think it was Alan Wake. There was Wendigos in that video.
Oh yeah.
Or that
Until
video
Dawn is a very popular game. It is centered around surviving Wendigos until dawn.
Yeah. I think From Dusk Till Dawn had a video game. It wasn't very popular, if I remember, but I think they made a video game out of that.
A sheep squash is apparently also in Fallout 76.
Sheep Squatch.
Yeah.
That's
So Fallout 76 just said, we're going to go in with the cryptids.
Well, think back to, and I know you weren't a big original Star Trek fan, but you sat on my lap and watched a few of them. But there was a couple episodes in Star Trek, the original Star Trek. There's one in particular where, Tyler, you'll probably remember this one, where they go to the planet and they get attacked by those big giants, almost like the giants of Kandahar. I can't remember the name of that episode, but they had a couple of crewmen got killed with spears that were like, the spears themselves were like 8 feet long, so they never really showed you'd see like maybe a leg or an arm, but they kept them off screen. That less is more thing, but you know, that was back in the 60s or 70s.
Yeah. Dad, you might be able to tell us more about this because this is one of your favorite games. The Jersey Devil and The Wolf Among Us?
Yep. The Wolf Among Us was a pretty good game. That was kind of a modern spin on the old fairy tales.
Mm-hmm.
The main character, Big B Wolf,
Yeah.
but it was Big B Wolf, but they called him Big B, but it was Big Bad Wolf. It was one guy that was a werewolf that was the wolf and the 3 little pigs and the Little Red Riding Hood and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But you had Cinderella, you had Snow White, 7 Dwarfs, you had the Jersey Devil. There were some vampires in it, and Bigby himself was a werewolf, and he walked around in more of the old Wolfman style form.
Yeah.
But the madder he got and the more control he lost, the more he turned into what you would see in a modern werewolf movie. Almost like, you remember the TV show that I used to watch, Werewolf, that I showed you? It was on when I was a kid, but I got the videos from it.
I don't think I remember that one. I remember watching Teen Wolf and stuff like that, but...
But there again, 1987, TV show Werewolf, that was probably, even though it doesn't get a lot of love from mainstream, that was one of probably the most, at the time, the very first episode, the pilot, showed a full transformation on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And Chuck Connors played the main bad guy in the first couple seasons. Janos Skorzeny was his character name, which was kind of an homage to his first name and his last name were kind of an homage to certain vampire characters, or vampiric characters. But that show in itself was a pioneer for some of the TV shows we've got now.
Oh, yeah. Some of my favorite TV shows when I was in high school and watching trash TV were the originals, Vampire Diaries. I loved the Twilight movies when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
I watched Teen Wolf for a little while. I stopped at season 4 because it got weird.
But there again, they were kind of breaking new ground too, because they were going into, they took the Michael J. Fox and version of Teen Wolf, and they kind of built on it, and they brought other things into. it was almost like a what kind of cryptid can we throw in this time? The only thing that I don't remember and never saw were any kind of Sasquatch or Loch Ness
Yeah.
monster type creatures. They pretty much hit. They hit hellhounds. They hit what else? They had chimera.
One thing they had I never expected to see on TV like that was a kitsune.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. They got into the Japanese
Yes.
ours.
Kitsune is a very big part of, or is a reasonably big part of Japanese culture. Like, it's one of the more well-known cultural things. Like, there's restaurants where waitresses will be wearing a kitsune or a wolf or fox mask, and it's for the kitsune spirit, and they will come over and play tricks on you. And if you can take their mask off, you kind of like win or something. It's a little game that you play. You have to try and get their mask off to make them stop tricking you, and they will like come over, shake up your soda, open it, and spray you with it. Like it's a fun part of Japanese culture, and it's fun to see it added into. Oh yeah, and it's even in a video game. It is in Overwatch 2. There is one of Kiriko. One of her lines says, let the kitsune guide you. And she is a trickster fox spirit, basically, in the game.
Well, and that trickster spirit, if we think about it in Norse mythology, Loki.
Mm-hmm.
Who was Loki's son?
He was a wolf, yeah.
I mean,
Which is a...
pretty much a werewolf, I mean.
Yeah.
Because Fenrir could talk.
Fenris was a giant wolf.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a wolf spawned by a god. I mean, he also had a giant serpent as a child, so... And then just a regular girl who happens to be the goddess of hell.
So, things like that have been around a lot longer than people... Well, I know people know that, but the average person really doesn't think how much cryptids and monsters, for lack of a better term, have been around and kind of been shoved into modern culture.
Yeah. Tyler reminded me there's also a six-legged horse child from Loki as well.
Well, I mean, centaurs and minotaurs and things like that, those have been in popular. I mean,
Norse mythology is insane. I love Norse mythology, and it's got so many weird, crazy things in it.
Well, so does Greek and Roman mythology. I mean, but think about all the movies that, like Narnia, Chronicles of Narnia. Look at all the mythical beasts that are in that. Look at all, because I mean, if you really want to,
Narnia is my favorite movie.
Those talking wolves. That's probably what. I mean, that would be classified as a werewolf.
Probably, technically, yes, because they are not full wolves. But to be fair, all animals in Narnia can talk.
Well, I mean, were.
So it's kind of hard to.
Were just means creature.
Yeah.
And that's mean because there are werebears in Norse mythology. That's where we get the term berserkers.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all in South America, were-jaguars, were-pumas. The lizard man of Skateboard Swamp here in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a were-creature.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Media?
Now, does that mean that it's something that bit a man and a man turned into a walking alligator? I don't know. But Rougarou, that's another one. Just because werewolf is the most popular, obviously, that's the most popular of the shape-shifting creatures.
Mm-hmm.
But all these cultures have their own different types. I mean, like you said, Norse mythology had bears and wolves. Greek mythology had wolves and had other things. South American lore had the werecat species. Look at Egyptian lore, Anubis and Wepwet.
Mm-hmm.
Horus was
A hawk.
part man, part hawk.
Yeah. A lot of Egyptian
Set,
gods.
part man, part crocodile.
A lot of Egyptian gods had the traits of animals.
Yeah. So, I mean, that in itself just shows that, and it's like I've said before, all these cultures all the major cultures in the world share similarities in a lot of these myths and legends and cryptids and things like that. Every First Nation tribe had a name for these Sasquatch type creatures. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of names. You know, Bigfoot is a term that was coined by a reporter in the 50s. Dogman was a term that was coined by a radio DJ in the 90s. You know, they're known by Bigfoot and Dogman now, but before that, they were Wild Man, Hairy Man, Chiathonka,
Yeah.
Gugway, Rougarou.
Media really is a big part of cryptid culture, and even excluding nowadays, let's look at like one of the earliest forms of media, which was poetry and spoken stories, Beowulf.
Mm-hmm.
Beowulf is a huge part of American,
Well,
or of like just education. It is something that most everybody reads, and
look at
Beowulf
the
has cryptids.
Look at the description of Grendel.
Yeah,
Grendel
Grendel and Grendel's
could be
mother.
a Sasquatch type creature.
Yeah, and Grendel's mother is like a water creature of some kind.
I would classify her as more like a chimera.
Yeah.
But the thing is, look at the way trolls were described.
Mhm.
They called them trolls over there. But think about it. You know, obviously we've sensationalized it. We've drawn the big green noses and the big things like that on them. They lived under bridges. They snatched women and children. They lived in the woods. What does that sound like?
Like Grendel.
Yeah. What was Grendel described like? A Sasquatch type creature.
Yeah.
There, you know, you got the Bigfoot type creatures in Scotland and Ireland. You've got the Wolver in Scotland, which was a werewolf type creature. Look at all the werewolf legends in the UK, in London. I mean, Leon goes looking for these things all the time, and he's had a lot of stuff that can't be explained. Like I said, they're that way. They're there for a reason, and there's a connection for a reason.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know we got a limited time on this. I think we could talk for another couple of hours on this. But
Oh yeah.
this was a fun little topic. I enjoyed this one.
I did too.
I always enjoy sitting down and talking with you.
Let's hope this episode actually gets to be aired, unlike the last one I did.
Last one we did, we didn't get a chance to air that one. But I think we got no problem airing this one, right, Tyler? So, but other than that, if anybody out there wants to get in touch with us, you can get us on our, shoot us an email at what'sreallyouthere2022@gmail.com. That's what'sreallyouthere2022@gmail.com. Taylor, where else can they get us?
You can send Johnny a smoke signal.
Yeah, that's one. Carrier pigeons.
Or a carrier pigeon.
I don't think he's ate them all. I think he said he'll add eat a couple of them.
He probably saved some for the
Yeah.
winter. You can find us on YouTube. What's Really Out There, just like here. Yeah, we've got all the episodes listed on YouTube as well, if you'd like to listen on there as well. Eventually, we'd like to move to a video format for YouTube as well. But for now.
Also, we've got a Facebook page, What's Really Out There. It's a group on Facebook. You can search What's Really Out There, and you can join us that way. Tyler, and Johnny and I always, not so much Johnny, because Johnny doesn't do a whole lot of tech stuff.
Or Tyler, because Tyler doesn't do any Facebook.
So basically, me and Taylor. But Tyler does monitor the YouTube channel, so and the email. So all three of us monitor the email, but somebody's monitoring all of them. So if you got something you want to send us, you got a story you want us to read, or you got somewhere you want us to investigate, or if you just want to say hey, remember to check us out on all the podcast mediums on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, things like that. But check us out on YouTube. Give us a like, share, subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything, but it helps us out a lot. we're gonna start putting some shorts out because now we've reached the 500 milestone. Now we've got to get so many hours of shorts out there that people will view, and once we do that, then we can finally get monetized and maybe start putting some money back into the show. We've got some pretty good equipment now. Actually, we're testing out one of the new things now with these microphones. I hope this will help the audio a little bit.
Yes, I kept messing with mine, so Tyler had to give me a fluffy, squeezy thing so I would stop messing with.
She got the little fluffy sock thing on her microphone now.
Yeah.
The fuzzy thing. But other than that, Tyler, you got anything else?
No.
All right. Well, I guess that's it from the cabin this time, folks. We'll see you next time.
Bye.